Right now, your soulmate is awake somewhere in this world, feeling something they cannot explain. They do not know your name. They do not know your face. But something deep inside them keeps pulling them toward a person they have never met. That person is you. If you have ever felt a longing you could not put into words, a sadness with no clear reason, a feeling that someone is missing from your life even though you have never lost them, stay with me. Because what I am about to share with you is going to shake something loose inside you. Subscribe to this channel right now and drop a comment below that says, I am ready, because this video was made for people who are spiritually awake enough to receive this message. Let us begin. There is a psychological phenomenon that most scientists refuse to talk about openly because it does not fit neatly into any clinical category. It is called unexplained relational longing. It is the feeling of missing a person who has not yet arrived in your life. It is not depression. It is not loneliness in the ordinary sense. It is something more specific. Maury pointed. Like your soul already knows a name it has not been given yet. Psychologists who study attachment theory have noticed something strange. Certain people, especially those who have done deep emotional work on themselves, begin to experience what can only be described as a pull. A directional pull. Not toward a memory. Not toward a past relationship. Towards something coming. Dr. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, spent decades studying how humans form bonds. And one of the most overlooked parts of his research is this. The human nervous system does not just remember connection. It anticipates it. Your body is literally designed to reach forward in time toward a bond it has not yet formed. Think about that. Your nervous system is already preparing for someone who has not arrived yet. Now here is where it gets spiritual. Because psychology can describe the mechanism, but it cannot explain the why. Why would your body reach for something it has never experienced? Why would your soul ache for a face it has never seen? Ancient spiritual traditions across the world, Hindu philosophy, Sufi mysticism, certain schools of Jewish Kabbalah, and even early Christian mysticism, all carry the same belief. That before you came into this body, before you took your first breath, your soul made agreements. Contracts, not legal documents. Soul-level agreements. And one of those agreements was with another soul. A soul that said, I will find you when the time is right. Wait for me. I am coming. Now you may be sitting there thinking, that sounds too poetic. Too mystical. Too far from what I know as reality. But let me offer you this. Every major spiritual tradition in human history, spanning thousands of years and dozens of cultures, arrived at the same conclusion independently. That some connections are not accidents. That some people are sent. Not by chance. By something deeper than chance. And right now, your soulmate is not just out there existing. They are being prepared. Just like you are being prepared. And heaven, or the universe, or whatever name you give to that higher intelligence that orders the chaos of life, is holding them back. Not because it is cruel, but because it is precise. Here is the first piece of news your soulmate is begging to be sent to you. You are closer than you think. Not geographically, necessarily. Energetically. The gap between where you are now and where they are now is thinning. In psychology, there is a concept called the proximity effect. It describes how physical and emotional closeness increases the likelihood of deep connection forming. But there is a spiritual version of this too. Mystics call it vibrational proximity. The idea that as two souls evolve, as they do their inner work, heal their wounds, clear their emotional debris, they begin to vibrate at frequencies that are closer and closer together. And like tuning forks, when two vibrating things reach the same frequency, they begin to affect each other even before they touch. You may have already felt this. A strange peace that came over you recently with no clear cause. A dream that felt too real to be random. A moment where you looked up at the sky or sat in silence and felt, for just a second, that something was near. That was not your imagination. That was proximity. Your souls are getting close. The second piece of news your soulmate is begging heaven to send you. They are thinking about you. Now, before your logical mind dismisses this, let me walk you through what psychology actually says about this. Rupert Sheldrake, a Cambridge-trained biologist, spent years researching a phenomenon called morphic resonance. The idea that consciousness is not trapped inside the skull. That thoughts and feelings can reach beyond the physical body and influence other fields of consciousness. His experiments, though controversial, showed that people would often think about or sense a specific person right before that person contacted them. Not after. Before. The thought preceded the call. The sense preceded the message. Sheldrake's data suggests that minds can reach across space. That when someone thinks about you with enough emotional intensity, you can feel it. You just rarely know what you are feeling. You chalk it up to a strange mood. A restless night. An inexplicable warmth in your chest. But what if those feelings had a source? What if somewhere right now, someone who does not yet know your name is sitting with a feeling they cannot explain, and that feeling is pointed at you? What if they are lying awake tonight wondering why they feel like something beautiful is about to happen? What if you are the answer to that feeling, and you do not even know it yet? That is the second message. They are already reaching for you, even without knowing they are doing it. The third thing your soulmate is begging heaven to send you. Stop preparing to meet them and start becoming who you already are. This one is going to sting a little. Because most people who are waiting for their person are waiting in a particular way. They are waiting while being someone they are not quite yet. They are waiting while performing a version of themselves they think will be acceptable. Waiting while still carrying wounds they have not yet addressed. Waiting while still in relationships, friendships, environments, and habits that belong to a version of their life that is already over. Carl Jung said something that I think about constantly. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people do not realize that the reason their soulmate has not arrived is not because the universe is slow. It is because they are still unconsciously blocking the arrival. Not on purpose, but through unhealed pain that says, love always leaves. Through old wounds that say, I am not worth choosing. Through patterns that keep recreating the same kind of partner wearing a different face. Your soulmate cannot come to a version of you that is still pretending. They are calibrated to the real you. The authentic you. The one beneath the performance and the protection and the carefully managed presentation. And here is the spiritual truth that runs parallel to this psychological one. Every spiritual tradition that speaks of soul connections also speaks of readiness. Not perfection. Readiness. There is a difference. Perfection is an illusion. Readiness is a decision. Readiness means you have stopped waiting to feel worthy before you show up fully. Readiness means you have started telling the truth to yourself first about who you are, what you want, and what you will no longer settle for. Readiness means you have drawn a line between who you used to be and who you are becoming. The moment you make that decision, and it is a decision, not a feeling, the moment you choose to be real rather than ready, something shifts in the field between you and your soulmate. The gap closes a little more. The frequency aligns a little more. Heaven moves a little faster. The fourth message your soulmate is sending you right now through every moment of silence you sit with. The loneliness you feel is sacred. I know that sounds strange. Loneliness does not feel sacred. It feels like failure. It feels like evidence that something is wrong with you. It feels like a punishment. But the psychology of solitude reveals something fascinating. Studies in depth psychology, particularly those influenced by the work of James Hillman, show that prolonged solitude, when it is not running away from life but sitting inside it, activates a level of self-awareness that busy, relationship-filled lives simply cannot produce. In other words, the quiet seasons of your life are not wasted time. They are construction time. You are being built during this silence. Expanded, deepened, stripped of everything that was not really you so that what is left is actually worth bringing to the most important relationship of your life. And spiritually, this period of waiting has always been seen as preparation, not punishment. The mystic Rumi spent years in isolation before he met Shams of Tabriz, the friendship that unlocked his greatest poetry. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before his calling became clear. The biblical figure of Ruth walked through grief and loss before she walked into the harvest field where everything changed. The darkness before the connection is not darkness. It is the womb. Something is being formed inside you right now. Something that could only be formed here. In the quiet. In the uncertainty. In the sitting with yourself when every distraction has been stripped away. Your soulmate is not coming to someone half-formed. They are coming to someone who has sat in the fire and come out knowing their own name. The fifth message, and this one is perhaps the most urgent one. Heal the wound that is keeping them away. There is one wound, and every person has a version of it that acts like a frequency blocker. It is the wound that says love is conditional. This wound forms early. It forms the first time you reached for love, and it was not there. The first time you were your most authentic self, and someone rejected you. The first time you made yourself small to be accepted, and it worked. That moment, small as it may seem from the outside, taught your nervous system something devastating. It taught you that love must be earned. That you are not lovable as you are. That connection requires performance. And from that moment forward, in every romantic encounter, you brought that wound with you. Dressed differently each time, but always the same wound. Always the same quiet belief underneath everything. I am not enough as I am. Attachment psychologists call this an insecure attachment style. But the spiritual description is even more precise. You are broadcasting a frequency of unworthiness. And your soulmate, who is calibrated to the frequency of your authentic self, cannot lock onto a signal that keeps dropping. Healing this wound is not about becoming more lovable. You are already lovable. It is about believing that you are. It is about doing the unglamorous work of sitting with the part of you that got hurt and saying out loud, even if only to yourself, that moment shaped me, but it does not define me. What happened to me was not my fault, but what happens next is my responsibility. That is the turn. That is the moment the signal gets cleaner. That is when heaven can finally point your soulmate in your direction with precision, because now you are broadcasting the real you, not the wounded one, not the performing one, the real one. The sixth message is one of the hardest to receive. Your soulmate may not look like what you have been picturing. I know. You have a type. You have a list, written or unwritten, of what this person will look like, how they will speak, what they will do for work, what their energy will feel like in the room. And some of those things are real soul preferences. But some of them, if you are honest, are not about what your soul needs. They are about what your wounds want. Your wounds want someone who fits the pattern. Someone familiar. Someone who recreates just enough of the old pain to feel like home. Because trauma, one of its cruelest tricks, makes the familiar feel like love. And makes the new feel like risk. This is why people with childhood wounds around abandonment keep choosing people who eventually leave. Not because they want to be left, but because the nervous system confuses activation for attraction. It confuses the familiar ache for love. Real love, soul love, the kind that your soulmate is carrying for you, may feel unfamiliar at first. Quiet where you expected noise. Steady where you expected drama. Safe where you expected excitement. And your nervous system, trained by old pain, might actually resist it. Might say this is boring. Might say something is missing. When what is actually missing is the familiar wound. Pay attention to this. When you meet someone who is consistent, who does not play games, who shows up fully without making you chase them, and your first reaction is that something is off. Sit with that reaction. Ask yourself honestly, is this person wrong for me? Or are they just new? Am I feeling lack of connection or lack of familiar pain? That question, asked honestly, could change everything. Your soulmate is not going to arrive as a storm. They are going to arrive as a clearing. A space where you can finally breathe. And you need to be ready to recognize peace as love. Not just intensity. The seventh and final message your soulmate is sending you. The timing is not a mistake. I need you to sit with this one for a moment. Because the part of you that is tired and frustrated, and maybe even a little angry at how long this is taking, needs to hear this. The delay is not rejection. The waiting is not punishment. The silence is not absence. There is a concept in quantum physics called non-locality. The idea that two particles, once connected, can affect each other regardless of the distance between them. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He did not like it because it broke all his models of how the universe worked. But it is real. And spiritually, soul connections operate on the same principle. You and your soulmate are already non-locally connected. Already affecting each other. Already shaping each other through the work each of you is doing right now in your separate lives. Every boundary you learn to hold is making you more ready for them. Every wound you heal is clearing space for them. Every moment you choose yourself instead of shrinking is a message sent across that non-local field. And they are receiving it. They do not know that is what they are feeling. But they are feeling it. Just like you have been feeling them. The timing is being calibrated to the millisecond. And I mean that in both a spiritual and a literal psychological sense. Relationship researchers at the Gottman Institute have found that the most successful long-term partnerships are formed between people who are at similar stages of emotional maturity and self-awareness. Not identical, similar, complementary, which means that if one of you is not ready, the connection, even if it forms, will not have the foundation it needs to last. Heaven is not keeping you apart out of cruelty. Heaven is keeping you apart out of precision. Making sure that when you meet, you both have what you need to build something that will not collapse under the weight of real life. Something that will hold. Something that will grow. Something that will be the kind of love that people look at decades from now and say, that is what love looks like. So what do you do with all of this? You stop waiting and start arriving. Do you arrive in your own life right now? Not when they get here. Not when things are easier. Now, you heal the wound that says you are not enough. You question the type that might just be a trauma loop dressed up as a preference. You sit in the sacred loneliness and let it build you instead of break you. You become real instead of ready. You trust the timing without surrendering to passivity. You keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming. Because here is the truth that wraps around everything I have said today. Your soulmate is not being sent to complete you. They are being sent to join you. And there is a difference that changes everything. Completion implies you are broken. You are not broken. You are unfinished. There is a difference. Broken things need to be fixed. Unfinished things need to be lived into. You are living by yourself. Every single day. And somewhere out there, someone is living into themselves too. Moving toward the same invisible meeting point. Not knowing your name. Not knowing your face. But feeling something they cannot explain. A pull, a readiness, a sense that something is about to change. That feeling, it has your name on it. And when the time is right, when both of you have arrived fully in who you are, when the frequency is clear and the signal is strong and the field between you has been prepared by all the work you have both been doing in the dark, heaven will stop holding back. And what has been apart will come together. Not with fanfare necessarily. Maybe quietly. Maybe in a moment so ordinary you almost miss it. A glance across a room. A conversation that should have been forgettable but was not. A moment where you look at someone and your nervous system, for the first time in as long as you can remember, goes completely quiet. It's no alarm. It's no guard. No performance. Just recognition. And you will know. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. And real is what you have been waiting for all along. If this video moves something in you, do not scroll past without leaving a comment below. Tell me what piece of this landed the hardest. Tell me what wound you are working on. Tell me where you are on this journey. Because the comment section of this channel is not just a comment section. It is a community of people who are choosing to grow, choosing to heal, and choosing to believe that love at the soul level is real and worth waiting for. You are not alone in this. There are people watching this video right now who are exactly where you are. And sometimes knowing that changes everything. Subscribe if you have not yet. Hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. And share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Because somewhere in your contacts right now is a person who is losing hope. Who needs to be reminded that the delay is not the end. That the quiet is not the answer. That what is coming for them is worth everything it has cost to wait. Be the person who sends them this reminder. I will see you in the next one.